my friends, thank you so much for being here. If you saw my recent Ulta haul, you saw the mention of this new Urban Decay Naked palette. They've put out a couple of tones of something called Naked Shaped, and I have the warmer of the two. I got it from Ulta. It's a little like slide up lid, that's different. And then you've got all of these neutral tones. The core of the palette is actually cream textures on these four. We've got mattes here, and then we've got shimmers, and there's different finishes within the shimmers. A couple of them seem like a really sheer glimmery topper type of shade. Others seem a bit more rich, like a shimmer eyeshadow you've used in the past, you know, what you come to expect from Urban Decay. I have done a look with this palette already, and I wasn't floored by it, primarily because of this shade up here. They've given a lot of real estate to this color, and it's like a very sheer glaze. But I didn't have the easiest time with that. I'm a little concerned about the creams. Like right now they're creamy, but there's no covering here, and they're basically surrounded by powder textures. I'm just not sure what I'm going to eventually run into with that, but I'm going to really try to utilize these cream bases. They say they could be liners as well. I'm going to try to work those into my look and see if they can be a good base for some of the shimmers also. I've already put on this shadow primer, the Wet n Wild Mega Last. So yeah, let's just jump right in. I'm going to first take some of this like creamy color, and the creams are already a little stiff. Now, I've seen creams that are part of different palettes that have stayed creamy for actually years. So I'm not saying these can't stay creamy, but they're already just like not ultra creamy, if you know what I mean. There's a little dryness to them. Is it a struggle to put these on? Not really. It's just they pull a little bit, but granted, I don't think I'd want world's wettest, creamiest thing going on to base an eyeshadow look anyway. All right, so I've used that light shade. I think I'm gonna go down to the dark brown right down here and just kind of use that on the outer part of my eye. I think they even said you could try to contour with these too, but they mentioned on the eyes, they mentioned as liner. Okay, I just dab that darkness there on the outer part of my lid. Sometimes, like if I'm using one of my Patrick Ta palettes and I take one of those dark shades and I kind of use it on the outer corner, it always does good things for the intensity of whatever eyeshadow goes on top. It's looking a little patchy here at the moment, but let's just hope that everything that goes on top kind of smooths it out. So because I've done that with the darker shade, I think I'm going to go in with my darkest matte shadow first. And this is my Morphe M303. I'm just going to get some of that dark brown. What do you guys think about the slider top? I'd kind of prefer to have a traditional opening with a mirror on it. I don't know, I really tend to use the mirrors. Like when I open a palette, I'm looking down into the mirror. And also there is a cool option. Okay, so this one with the warmth, the warmest parts are kind of like these tones here. You've got some warmth in that brown, but it's still not like wildly warm, you know what I mean? So I feel like that brown is really doing well. I don't really have complaints on the mattes in here. They performed well for me the first time, and the idea that you might top a cream shadow with them, I think it can intensify them even more. So now that I've done that, I'm thinking about bringing in my usual crease brush and just using that to help me blend a little bit. Okay, that's softening the edge a lot because keep in mind I don't have a cream base like up into my crease. I feel like I need to even things out just a little bit, maybe with my Profusion small pointed brush, because I feel like I've got a lot more darkness kind of going outward on this side compared to that side. So I will use a little bit of the same shade. And pigment here seems good. So I've got that shadow kind of on the tip of this brush, and I'm trying to extend it outward just a bit more to match up with the shape I've got going on my right eye. Sometimes it's kind of tricky when you start with the darkest shade, but I felt like that was just what this look called for, having that dark base already on my lid. But what we can do now is utilize some of the mid-tones. We've got like kind of a toasty tan brown right up here. I'm going to get some of that. There is a little excess tapping off, but it's not like putting a huge powdery divot into these shadows. That's pretty. I like that tone, and I'm working that throughout my whole crease area, okay? What this palette kind of makes me wonder is, are there a lot of people who are really wanting this combination of textures in one palette? Like, do you use a lot of creams? Do you use a lot of creams that aren't in a stick form? Or like basic matte cream shadows, something people are really after right now? And then I would extend up further probably with this shade right here. Just a little bit of this kind of light to medium color. And just let that assist in the blending. I feel like I've got an area right in the outer corner where shadow is clinging more to one cream spot than another, and it's just not the best. But I blended over it more and smoothed it out. Liking the way these shades are looking. Everything that's blending up toward the brow. And then I can take some ultimate, you know, lightness right here. Keep in mind, this is cream, so this is powder here. A little bit of that lightest powder and just smooth directly under my brow. And then I want to see some shimmer happen here on the lid. This palette is home to some very smooth pigmented shimmers like this one right here. This brown looks really nice, feels how I'd want a shimmer to feel. This one right here, it's kind of like a soft gold. Again, really nice and soft and rich feeling. There's a shade right next to that that's kind of like a champagne. Those three are all rockin' in the shimmer world. This one right up here, this taupey shade that lives next to the brown shimmer, it's showing something. It's soft, but I had some issues building that one up on my eyes the other day. And then I'm gonna wipe that off and show you this shade up here. That's your absolute glaze. So here's what we'll try. I'm going to first take my Morphe M302 brush. I want a little bit of this shimmery brown just because it seems like such a pretty shade. And I'm going to pat that on the center of my lid. So it's kind of starting to overlap that darker brown. But whole center of the lid area, leaving the lightness right in here. Keep in mind the only thing there right now is the cream base, like that cream shadow right there. That's the only thing on my innermost lid. And the first time I used this palette, I didn't really try using that as a base all over my lid. I just used some darkness on the outer corner. So I'm gonna see if that provides enough of a sticking point to help this shade really show up. Cleaning off my brush a little bit, I'm gonna pick up some of that glaze and tap it over my inner corner. I do feel like it's showing with a little building. You know, it looks a little frosty. It doesn't look great. Like I'm really seeing the sparkle texture in that shadow. It's not looking like one even swipe of shimmer, which if that's what you want, you know, you might go down to this shade. This is a very nice texture down beneath. But this, like, I can see the shadow kind of flying around my cheek as I'm trying to tap it on. You do reach a point where you've put on a shadow like this and you can't really just continue building forever because eventually there's nothing sticky there anymore. And the cream shadow wasn't especially sticky, but dang, I don't know. I'm just kind of learning that I don't love that shade so much. I've not been impressed with it now on 2 occasions. I might take some of this shade that I know is buttery and smooth and just use that around my inner corner. And it's just a little concerning to me that we're spending all this time with this palette wide open and these creams are just going to be having a lot of time to be open to the air. I've got this little like fine angled liner brush from Profusion, taking some of the black. I'm going to use some with this brush and just really get to the lash line with it, you know? This is where a mirror would come in nicely. It's not applying super strong like a cream liner would. There's more softness to this. I am seeing it. It's not extremely rich, which might be what some people want. And then I'm thinking about getting a little bit of the dark brown and maybe we use some of that like down here on the lower lash line for some smudginess. I've still got, no doubt, some black on my brush, but just kind of hitting that outer part of the eye. Some of this one right here, this like light brown, which we haven't really messed with, and use some of that more on the lower lash line. I don't know how well this is gonna stay and set, but we're just playing around here. What I could do is also take my small pointed brush with just a little bit of, let's say, the dark brown, just a tiny bit, and kind of like go over that. Here's what was nice. It was nice to see Urban Decay come out with a new eyeshadow palette. That was exciting to me. I do like the tones in here, and I really like the mattes. I think there's an easy blendability between like these shades, working in the brown into those mid-tones. That was nice. There are several really good shimmers in here. I'm not a fan of this one. I tried to make it work better today, but I'm still not wowed even using the cream as a base. But it's like, who's wanting this? Who's wanting cream shadow, potentially bases, liners within the palette? Because for me personally, I guess what I'm realizing is I don't really need this, and it's always got me wondering, are they drying out, or am I getting flecks of powder into these, which I can already see some little flakes, and then that's going to contribute to drying out. It's just basically not really a needed step for me most of the time. I'm happy with using a good eye primer, and you know, the fact that there's a couple of creams in Patrick Ta palettes, that wasn't my driving force behind buying those. You know, it was kind of a nice little extra that could function maybe as a liner or something smudgy on the outside. But I don't know, here they've really been given like priority. There's a lot of real estate here for those, and I just don't think in the long run, it's not a palette I'm going to be thinking of like, oh, I can't wait to pick that up and layer up some creams and powders. That's not really a pull for me. And I do really like some of the shimmer textures, but it is a very common color scheme. We've got to admit that. So I'm going to finish off my eye look and we'll have some final thoughts on this. Alrighty friends, so here's the finished look. I only added one thing on the eyes, and it's my Too Faced Ribbon Wrapped Lash Mascara. I'm really kind of coming to love the length that I get out of this. If you build quick enough, it will build pretty good length. You just can't like wait too long. You can't let it get totally dry, and then it seems like the brush is going through it and it's doing nothing. So you have to be kind of quick with it, but it's a tubing mascara. I have it on my lower lashes too. And then on my lips, I'm wearing Hard Candy Boyfriend, so kind of a brownish liner, and this milky nude lip gloss here from Lawless. It's the Strawberry Shortcake color. So I kind of left some lightness on the inner part of the lips. I think that looks pretty. All the other makeup on my face today, I'm actually kind of experimenting with a bunch of L'Oreal Infallible stuff, because the other day I'd used my Skin Ink and I made sure I topped the look with the 3-second setting mist, and I had such good staying power all day in some heat, in some conditions, you know. It worked really well, and so I thought about throwing every other Infallible product I have into my base look too. So the Full Wear Concealer, I was wearing that on that day that I had really good staying power. But today, adding in the Blurfection Soft Pink Powder, the foundation in a powder, just kind of lightly all over. I used the bronzer in tan, or medium. I always want to say that's called tan. The Confident Pink Infallible Blush and the Icy Gold Infallible Highlighter. That stuff might be good to do a video on all in itself, but I thought, you know, my staying power was so good on that day that it was Skin Ink, and then I used the 3-second mist. I thought, let's try that again and just see if I get as consistent of a staying power day as I did that time. But anyway, just chatting about this Urban Decay palette, I feel like it's got a lot of good things in it, but cost-wise, it is a $56 palette. So, you know, it looks pretty on the outside. I like that actual wave. There's a physical, you know, wave in that palette. It looks so nice. But for an all-in-all very common color scheme, and then me feeling like the creams aren't really enhancing the look that much or being something that I'm eager to incorporate into my everyday looks, this isn't feeling real necessary for me. If this is something you've been craving, then maybe you're going to jump on this one. If you're always wanting to mingle the creams and the powders, and this makes it very convenient, then maybe that's something worth considering. But I don't love this shade. This shade is kind of on the border for me. Other shimmers are really good, and the mattes are really good too, but I'm not hurting for good neutral shimmers and mattes really across my collection. I was just thinking about this one, the Dark Cocoa palette from Catrice. It's a $6 palette with 100% consistency. You know, you've got shimmery taupes, shimmery soft golds, warm brown, deep browns, but all powder textures. You know, just saying. Maybe get that and get pure nude with it if you're wanting to make things a little cooler, or get the hot maca with it if you're wanting to make things a little bit warmer. Heck, you could get all three of those. What's 6 times 3? 18? You could get all three of those and still be well under the price of this one. But the cream element, that's something to think about. about? Do you like it? Does it feel risky to you? Does it feel like something you just have doubts about? Kind of like me, I'm just, sort of doubting it. How long are they going to stay creamy for? Constantly being open. There's no protective window on it to keep the fallout from other shadows out. I just don't think it's the best decision to have that in there in that way. What could be cool is if this shifted open and then maybe you had a little side window that also shifted out. You know what I mean? That really kept those creams feeling like they're in a separate location. Had to show you guys this. This is at 2 in the afternoon on that day. So about 8-ish hours of wear. Quite a bit of creasing. I don't usually experience this, but I think the cream shadows in this palette were causing this to occur with my look. So was not pleased about that. But anyways, I could probably just talk on this all day. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was an informative video. I do feel like I came away with a look that I could enjoy. It's not that this is the worst palette ever. It's just got some things where at the $56 price tag, you really have to think about and think, do I need that? So let me know your take in the comments section. Have you tried this one? Have you tried the cool one? Maybe you've tried them both. Let us know how they're working for you, and I will see you all again very soon. I love you. Bye.